Hey guys. So, cool little idea I want to talk about today is that there's only trade-offs. There's no decisions. So, I mean, there's probably a better word than decisions, but everything is a trade-off. You're not quitting drinking, you are giving up drinking for some other habit. Every habit you have is just replaced with a different habit because your time has to be filled somehow, whether it's replaced with more time doing something that you already do or the same time doing something new. And so basically, the idea is if you're trying to break a bad habit, replace it with a similar habit that affects a similar part of your brain but is more beneficial. So, an example for me where I'm using this is I have a I love watching TV and entertainment, YouTube, anything like that. It like fires up the dopamine in my brain, and I don't like the habit. I don't think it's very productive. I don't think I learn much from it. I get sucked into it, and I have a hard time getting away from it once I get in it. And so I've tried going like cold turkey before, like no TV, unplug the TV, whatever. And it seems that I always, at some point in time, will go back to it, whether it's like months in between, days in between, whatever. And it's simply because that time that I would have been doing that is being replaced with something that doesn't trigger the same part of my brain. And so when I'm not doing that, I feel hungry or like a really deep wanting to go do that thing. And that's just like the crash, the dopamine crash of the wanting. It would be like withdraw if you were on drugs. It's the same idea. But what I propose and what's been working, like what I want to try doing instead is replacing it with something that basically has the same dopamine curve. And for me, this is vibe coding. So if you know anything about that, it's basically just using AI to code things. And I especially like to do like App Store stuff, so I can get an app in the App Store, and I just find it fascinating. I love design, like UI design. I like systems. I like cool things like that. I've always liked that stuff. And so I've recently told myself that like there's a very low chance that I make a business out of it because the stuff that I focus on is typically the stuff that doesn't matter very much, and it's the more aesthetic looking stuff, and I spend way more time than I need to on certain things. But I enjoy it. And so what I've told myself is I'm not going to try and monetize it, at least not right now, and I'm going to treat it purely as a hobby and fun. And I'm going to replace that or my typical like TV or times at which I feel like doing that with vibe coding. And so far, it seems to work pretty well because it tickles the same part of my brain. I get excited about it. I think it's really neat. But you can look at the difference between the two. One of them, I'm staying up late staring at a screen and not really getting much from it. Probably won't learn much. But with vibe coding, I'm learning how AI works. I'm learning how programming works. I'm learning about APIs and data manipulation, databases, storage, app store, like all of this stuff. And now I'm like getting to learn meta ads and running ads because a good way to get people into your app is just feed them straight through meta ads. And then if your cost per acquisition or like download or whatever is higher, then you can just mass spam ads and you'll get more users, right? And so now I have an excuse to not only learn to program, but learn to use meta ads, which will inevitably become useful. Facebook ads, I guess you, if for those of you familiar, in the future when I'm running a bigger business, because I feel like every person at some point eventually runs ads, and so it's a useful skill to know. And so in both worlds, I'm getting the same dopamine tickle and the deep enjoyment, and in both worlds, I'm treating it as entertainment, but in one of them it's unproductive, and in the other one there's actually a learning experience involved. And so the idea that there's only trade-offs, there's no sacrifices, there's just trade-offs, is if you're trying to break a bad habit, what you need to do instead of looking at it as cold turkey, cut it out, replace it with something better that does the same thing. So if you really, really enjoy hiking and you're trying to break a habit of watching Netflix, every time you want to watch Netflix, go for a hike. And this is probably not a good example because most people probably much rather watch Netflix than go on a hike. But this is assuming that you like hiking, like really like it. And I thoroughly enjoy doing interface design, like I like making things look cool on the internet, right? And so that brings me the same amount of joy as watching TV does, except it offers a lot more positive benefits and not as many of the negative benefits. And so I've started doing that instead. And I don't really feel like watching TV because I would much rather, or just as much rather, be doing what I'm doing. And yet it's productive. So just think about that. No sacrifices, only trade offs. And find a trade off that is just maybe entertainment. Maybe it's not going to get you farther, but at least it has less negative effects or more positive effects than whatever it is, the bad habit you're trying to break. But yeah, that's it. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow, but definitely put some thought into it. See if you can apply it in your own life. Figure out if you agree or disagree with it, but let me know what you think.